So the first question is about who was Donald Kirkpatrick and how was the process of, building all this incredible methodology?
Well, I'll first start by saying Don Kirkpatrick, I refer to him as Don K, was my father. And he passed away 8 years ago, but his spirit of playfulness, his spirit of trying to help people do better in their work, it still lives on, not just with Kirkpatrick Partners, but beyond the United States into the countries that you guys represent and all that. And in 1954, he was finishing up his dissertation and he did a study on supervising people. And he thought, well, let's see, if I'm supervising them and teaching them a class, I might as well see if they like it or not. And then I might as well see if they learned anything. And while I'm at it, afterwards, why don't I check back and see if they actually applied some of it? And if they did, if it did their companies any good. So he named the 4 words at that point as a reaction, level 1, learning level 2, behavior level 3, and the results level 4. And he got his diploma and he got his cap and gown and he became Dr. Kirkpatrick. And he just went about his business of being professor after that. He never even thought further about evaluation. He was teaching coaching and different things. And then years later, somebody said, well, Don, just so you know, it's an honor to meet you. We're using your model all over the world. He said, what? What are you talking about? What model? He said, why, the Kirkpatrick model. He said, what's that? The 4 levels of evaluation. Really? Wow, I didn't know that. So the good news is that even though he did not broadcast it as his model, the industry, the learning industry, training, whatever we want to call ourselves, they did. And they did because they found that it was a simple model. There was some other complex things that were too difficult to ever be able to implement in the world of work, and his isn't. And that's why it's still around today. And me and others, like Regina, we've been trying to make it more powerful, as the years go by.
And how was your involvement with the methodology, the Kirkpatricks, and how you get it into this?
Oh, I don't know if you know the story, but it is an interesting one. I was doing other work other than training. And for years and years, I was always afraid that he would ask me, Jim, can you name the 4 levels? I knew a couple of words, but I didn't know what order they were in or anything. Fortunately, he never asked me. But when I was in my 40s, somehow I talked myself in my way into being a training manager for a bank in the United States. And I thought, well, since I'm now into training, I better figure out what the 4 levels is. And so once I got there, I said, hey, Dad, do you mind if we get together and you tell me what this 4 levels thing is? Because I have a feeling I'm going to be using it. But right away, I started seeing there were ways to move it around a little bit and move this here, move this here. So that's why over the years, me and others, we now call it the New World Kirkpatrick model, because it's much more powerful. It's still simple in execution, but it's much more focused on the performance and the results rather than the training.
It's interesting. It seems that when you get into the situation of using it as a customer, let's say, that you realize that some adjustments or some revision should be done, and probably this is the new model, right, that we use at this moment that help us deal with all the changes that happened in the world and even in the world of training, right?
Yes, that's right. And I would talk to him about those things, and he was not a complex man. He kind of had simple relationships, simple life, simple things like that. Sometimes I would just talk too much, get too excited and say, whoa, wait a minute, I don't understand what you're talking about. But over the years, he kept saying, I don't exactly understand everything that you guys are doing now, but I am absolutely in favor of it. And I know how much it's helping people.
And since when did the affiliates entered in the game, let's say, because you started doing this by yourselves And then we see that today you have several affiliates around the globe across, right? With me, Regina, we are one of them representing you here in Brazil and also in Portuguese and Spanish speaking countries. But when did it started, and what was the importance of these affiliates?
Okay, well, I'm very clear about my answer in that. My father was not, he was a professor, not a very good businessman. I was not a good business person either. And so we kind of bumbled our way around for different years, working with different things, until I was giving a talk in 2006 in St. Louis in the United States. And there was a red-haired gal in the crowd that day who happened to be listening to it and taking notes. And afterwards, she introduced herself. Her name was Wendy Kaiser. And we started talking about things, and you know, I kind of thought, well, she seems to know a lot about things. So as over the next months, we decided two things over the next year or so. One, we were going to be going to business together, and she was going to be the business leader. And two, we were going to get married. So what do you think of that? So why not do both? So that's really how it happened. And she had the business mind, still a practical way, still the great enthusiasm, and nothing has changed with that. I am not as actively involved in the business anymore because I'm 69 years old and, you know, getting a little, my voice gets a little worn out at times, but that is how it became a business and created the opportunity to become not just a global model that people were implementing it any way they wanted to. It became a really true model that we then turned into the training. And for the first couple of years, I went to 45 different countries in like 3 years, and it was just too much. So now we have affiliates, and that was again Wendy's idea. And Regina, you were one of the early ones that you know, became our trusted partner, and now you're even expanding out and one that we look to for our encouragement.
Yeah, I still remember when we met, Jim. I went to an ATD. I think it was, I don't know, I think it was in Orlando, Florida, I think. And when we met, so it was wonderful.
I remember there was a group of us, wasn't there, that we met. And I remember
we met
sitting
there.
talking.
Yeah, great. And now let's talk about the certification. So for which professionals would you recommend the certification?
Well, I thought about that, and I'm not just going to rattle off titles like, oh, a trainer or an instructional designer or a training leader or whatever. This certification program, honestly, is for anybody who is in the learning world, in the talent world, in the training world, that is interested in growing their career and growing their influence. Because still the majority of people believe that the Kirkpatrick model is about a smile sheet for level 1, a test for level 2, and a 90-day survey for level 3. How's it going back there? But the program now is such that it will really focus on you not just providing training or learning, but helping make sure that people actually apply what they learned. You know, the world of work, the performance, the workplace, becoming much more involved with that. And that is our future, because technology, I believe, is very soon and rapidly going to replace the need for humans to keep delivering the training and keep developing the training. But technology cannot replace the relationships that this model and the certification program teaches you how to build tactical relationships with line managers and supervisors, and more strategic ones with the senior leaders. And those relationships then cause those leaders to say, you guys are adding value, not just costing us money. And so anybody who wants to further their career and their influence, that's who it's for.
And I think that, you know, I think the certification and getting to know the model in a more deeper way helps people kind of change the mindset. Could you tell us a little bit more about this changing mindset that people may get through the certification?
Yes. Well, for one thing, tradition is very strong in that if we train them enough, train people enough, and make it as pretty as we can, they will learn it and apply it and create success. And it just isn't true. Sitting in a classroom adds exact no value at all unless people take their learning and do something with it. So we're trying to change that mindset that this is about a learning and performance model, not just a training event model where you train them and then 90 days later you ask what's going on. As the mindset is, you're going to be more of a strategic partner with each other and the business people, and will be seen as adding value. And that is not an easy change of mind, because it's been around for 60 years that all we have to do is deliver training in the most wonderful, beautiful, exciting way. And then we can sit back and wait for the results. And the way we change it, though, and Regina, you've been very helpful with that, is helping the people going through the training see what others have done that have come before them, and setting the way and the light to say, look, this really does work. You know, holding the lantern at night and saying, follow us. This is a new pathway to success. And I know that you really leverage those people that you've been successful with.
Great, Jim. Yeah, because I think that sometimes people in training, they think about starting with the training in mind. And when they learn the methodology, they start thinking about what are the needs of the businesses, so that starting from that point, we get to the training, if training is important, right? So I think that this is the change in mindset that makes people more strategic. I don't know if you agree with that, Jim.
Oh, I totally agree. And also through the partnerships.
Exactly.
They work together after people return from the training, and you know what they do? They're waiting at the workplace and say, welcome back from training. Now let's get to work and let's work together on this. And Regina, you know what people have been telling me more and more when they change their mindset and they change their behavior. The leaders on the business side, they say, you're not who we thought you were. We thought you were cost center. We thought you were trainer. We never thought we'd meet you. You're not who we thought you were. You are truly a partner and truly adding value. That's when you know that you're on a really good path.
Exactly, because sometimes training people do talk to business, but as a diagnostic thing, and then they do not appear anymore. They go away. And then for you to be a truly partner, you need to be together with the business, right? Before, during, and after, right? So that's when we really build this partnership, right? So I think this makes the difference for the people who learn the methodology and apply it.
That's exactly it. And I know that you have done that, you know, in South America for many years, and it really makes all the difference, because so many people are losing their job because they're not able to demonstrate the value. They're not even able to really demonstrate that they're helping with performance. But this model takes you step by step through examples, through best practices, through stories and metaphors. And I know, Regina, at times you're very specific and prescriptive about saying, this is what successful organizations do. They do this and this and this. And so all that together helps not only change the mindset, but provides the energy to actually change the behaviors.
And how do you see the future of training now? So after so many years working with training areas and people, how are you seeing the future of training right now?
Well, I am seeing it already. And let me tell you what I'm seeing. And I can think of several major companies and major government agencies. What they used to do is they had a schoolhouse or an academy or a corporate university. And they would get a note from the line manager saying, can you deliver a 3-day leadership training for us? or a new onboarding training or something. And then they work on it, instructional designing, for like months, putting this massive training together. And then they have people come from the workplace into the academy or into the schoolhouse and take them away from their job and train them there, and then send them back to work. The problem is it takes so long to go through that cycle. By the time they get back to their job, the performance needs are old news, and they're not the same. It takes too long. So the future is going to them, going to the business place and identifying performance needs, performance gaps, and spending much shorter time figuring out how to use some role plays or some focus groups or some short training actually in the workplace that is specifically designed to help them improve their performance, rather than trying to improve competencies or learning objectives or those kind of things that have probably worn out their welcome. So it's being much more related to performance gaps and much more timely. And that's the future. And short bursts. Give them what they need for performance, not hours and hours of things that probably they'll never use.
Great.
That's the future. And also technology. Let me just say one more thing. We're using technology to now create virtual training. And I say enough already. Let's use technology to create virtual support on the job for performance, not just for the delivery of training, but take those skills we have in the world of technology and convert it into post-training support rather than just the training itself.
Jim, and could you explain for us what are the differences among the certifications? Because we have, 3 certifications, right? The bronze, the KSAP, and the silver. So can you explain to us what are the differences among those different certifications?
I think I can. The KSAP is, in a nutshell, it's about building the relationships, building the foundational. It's relationships with the line managers, people that are busy working in performance, with IT, working with human resources, working with training graduates. People, I call it on the other side of the bridge. It's on the workplace side of the bridge, not the training side. And it really teaches also how to work and build these lasting, ongoing relationships with senior leaders. And so that is really the focus of that, is to kind of, how do you prepare the relationships so that when, for instance, you take the bronze program, that really is the methodology for making sure that the training is identified as having a need, and the learning will be required, and the performing, and it's more the science of the model rather than the art of doing it. And one thing I got to be honest with you, Regina, we don't exactly know which is the best one to go first. We can make an argument. Some people say bronze and then KSAP, others say KSAP and bronze. It's just kind of, both together work. Now, the silver actually takes you in a workplace scenario, a workplace program that you have planned for in the bronze program and prepared for in the KSAP, and help you execute it. Just like you set a GPS address to go to some holiday spot or some vacation spot. This teaches you how to go along the way, the journey to get there, to make sure you get to the destination safely and most economically. And it's the same concept when people say we need to see results from the program. Silver takes you all the way to make modifications and adjustments along the way in order to maximize the performance and then maximize the results. And here's where you hear job well done when you take the whole package.
Right. And what about the gold? So, because we have the gold. What is the gold?
Well, I know you had a couple of questions here we were going to talk about. Let's talk about that right now. Gold is taking it and spreading the good news beyond your organization. And it's not necessarily boring people with your data, but it's going to like in the US government or something, we could take it to different branches of the government, or in companies, they could take it to a different company and present what they have successfully executed in their organization and share it as a workshop or a conference or a white paper or something. And we call it for the greater good, because we really believe it's a greater good, because people are becoming performance experts and not just cost center training providers. So the goal is what evangelizes it throughout the world and passes it on to others.
And is this a certification? It's not a certification, right? Is it?
Well, it's not a class. It is not a class at all. What it is you will get a plaque for your wall. So it isn't a certification process. It's just a matter of you delivering your good news to someone else, and then we recognize you. I think it's more of a recognition that you are the ultimate. You have achieved the ultimate in what Kirkpatrick believes is the contribution to our industry.
So, Jim, let's imagine that we have people that are still in doubt about doing or not doing the certification in the methodology. What would you say to those people? Portuguese or Spanish-speaking people who are still in doubt, what would you say to them?
Well, one thing, a very simple thing, is I say, well, if people aren't satisfied, we could return your money. We've trained like 35,000 people in the US plus the other countries. We've never had one person ask for their money back out of thousands, tens of thousands of people. So that's at least one bit of evidence. But the other is that there is something for everybody. And this is not just Regina or Jim or Wendy presenting a class the same way, the same words every time. We and you work with the people in the classroom, don't you, to make sure you're addressing their particular needs. And the discussion focuses around the needs of the class, not just what's in the manual. And so that's why I say it's customized, for what comes to light during the class itself.
It's not just the class, right, Jane? Because when they, for example, in the bronze and even in other certifications too, when they finish, they need to complete a plan or a task that is very customized to their own needs, and all the support that we give them help them apply that in their reality. So it's a kind of coaching or mentoring thing that comes together with the certification, right? So that's the reason why it's not just a workshop, and that's the reason why it's a certification, and it's much more value.
And I know you and I are a lot alike, because how many conversations we've had about people, not during the bronze class, but afterwards, and the questions that they have. And you make yourself available, and I make myself available. Sometimes it's the homework that they do that's more formal, but other times, just a short little bit of guidance that are we on the right path? Well, you need to steer a little bit more this way, to make sure you are on the best path for your organization. But you're right, this is a process, not just a training class event. Exactly.
And I was here thinking about, the value that a certification like that could have in the career of a training professional, because we are talking about an international certification. We talked about how the certificate, the methodology is known across the globe, right? So if a person makes a certification in the methodology, this is a kind of language that the world knows, right? So tell me something about that, your ideas about that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, in certain, for instance, our federal government, it absolutely recognizes Kirkpatrick as the ultimate in evaluation. And when people have it on their resume or in their proposal, something, they light up and say, wow, it adds credibility. And also globally, it is known throughout the world, you know, and when you can say I've been formally trained by the Kirkpatricks, whether they have the same last name or not, it gives instant credibility and instant trust.
Excellent. Jim, is there anything else that you would like to add to our conversation?
Yeah, there's one more thing, Regina, that I've been talking to people about lately. There will always be training requests. Organizations and leaders will continue to write the checks for training. And the language that I've been using to them is the New World Kirkpatrick model will help protect that investment. Because if you just train a bunch of people with great training and then leave them to their own path and their own devices, most of it is just going to fall flat on the floor and be a waste of money. But what we do here is we protect the investment by making sure we carry it forward into performance and into results. So it really not only protects the investment, it leverages their investment in training to make sure it does what it's supposed to do. So those seem to be magic words lately with senior leaders.
Excellent, Jim. So I am so grateful that we had the opportunity to have this conversation. I'm so happy to see you again. It has been long that we saw in person. So it's really a pleasure to have this opportunity to get to see you, to talk to you. And I'm very happy and, you know, to represent you here in Brazil. And also now, you know, we are expanding our work. So I'm very happy with this opportunity.
Well, one more thing, Regina, I got to say, and I'm not saying it to you, Regina, I'm saying it to everybody who will listen and watch this. What you see with Regina and what you see with me is real. We're not pretending to be enthusiastic. We're not pretending to be caring. We really are, aren't we? And I can see that the kind of energy that you're showing there is what they would experience in the training. And it's absolutely authentic and genuine. And I sure enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, I remember when we knew each other, we were at that event and we get to know each other. You said to me that you see in me the spirit of Kirkpatrick. So I'm so happy, and it has been so many years right now. So the spirit is still alive.
Great. Well, really good talking to you, and everybody out there who's watching this. We really appreciate you putting your trust in not just the model, but the people that are delivering it, and we won't let you down.
Thank you so much, Jim.